Did you know that white people used to eat black people?
Now, I didn't know that this wasn't common knowledge. And if you didn't know this, that means you don't follow me. But white people have always indulged in cannibalism. They ate their slaves and they ate black people that were free after the Emancipation Proclamation, after lynchings. If you didn't know this, you don't follow me. And if you don't follow me, you should follow me. My name's Chemistry. I teach Black history.
So this is on TikTok, right? And there's no like disclaimer, no fact checker. The European Union is not up in arms. No one is saying, "Oh, this is Russian disinformation." No, it's just on TikTok, and it's got hundreds of thousands of views. And it's interesting because like most people actually believe it. Now, let's analyze it with a thing that a lot of people don't like to use, which is called the brain, right? Like, let's do a little bit of critical thinking. So, white people used to like to eat black people. Okay. Now, is that a cultural thing where, like, white people practice cannibalism? Apparently not. Like not even in Norway, where they actually did used to make human sacrifices during the time when they believed in the Norse religion. But no, and usually there is a reason why white people don't practice cannibalism. Is because the Roman Empire, they were actually very tolerant for their time. They weren't really interested in ideology as much as they were interested in people following the law. And so they were more concerned about conquering places and turning them into Roman provinces so they can extract wealth from those places than they were in, ideologically pushing their religion upon other people. But there was an exception to this, and that exception was human sacrifices. Like, if your religion had human sacrifices, the Romans had opinions. And so, because the Roman Empire conquered most of Europe, most of the people conquered by the Roman Empire did not practice any type of human sacrifice or cannibalism, with the obvious exception if there was a massive famine. Like, if there was a massive famine because of droughts or a plague of locusts or something, then yes, people would probably eat each other. And also, if you happen to have a shipwreck, or some people lost at sea. But those were the only exceptions. And even then, like during the English colonial time, if you were a sailor that actually got lost at sea, and in order to survive, you had to eat other people, you wouldn't be locked up, but you are considered an untouchable. Like society would treat you as if you're the most disgusting person ever. Even though everyone understood why they did it, even though everyone probably in your situation, out of the sense of self-preservation, would have done it as well, there was this huge taboo in society, especially among sailors, because yes, like this actually happened, not too many times, but it happened enough to the point where it was like a taboo that it's actually better for a sailor to end their own life than to resort to cannibalism. It wasn't considered gentlemanly, right? So you're telling me that from this culture, in which cannibalism is like the worst taboo ever, and for hundreds of years nobody practices, there's no documented records of being practiced in Europe, but like when they go to America and they have slaves, that's when they do it. Okay. Despite the fact that cannibalism is actually, or was actually prevalent in Africa, and there still is to some extent today. Like there was a CNN guy, right? He went to interview some tribe, and they forced him to eat human brain. And if he refused, like you could tell that the tensions were escalating. And so this hyper-progressive, extremist, moralizing CNN anchor that promoted the idea that all cultures are beautiful and all cultures are the same, the moment he goes to Africa, he is forced to eat human brains and practice cannibalism. Right? And on top of that, when you look at the Kuru disease, which is a disease that you get from eating other humans, like it's a disease that causes people to have their hands shaking. It's basically from eating people's brain. It's similar to the mad cow disease. It's from a prion. But that usually happens in Africa. Like, you don't have cases of Kuru disease in America. You don't have cases of Kuru disease in Europe. Unless, of course, as I mentioned before, there happens to be a massive famine. Like you had the Holodomor in Ukraine. But that's a different thing, right? It's not like people enjoy eating others because they practice cannibalism. And so, like, let's look at this situation. White owners were eating their slaves. Now, this is a misconception, which I suppose it's popularized by social media and the brain-dead American progressive movement, which is the fact that, well, almost everyone had a slave in America. They were probably richer than the Roman Empire, right? Every single white household had a slave. The reality is, no, like, slaves were extremely expensive. It was kind of like being able to afford a sports car, if you will. Like, it was financially crippling. To the point where only the wealthiest people had slaves, or corporations had slaves. Corporations, in the sense of plantation owners, right? Like, it was running like a company. So, who was supposed to eat them? Like, if it's a plantation owner, right? He's got like 1,000 of slaves. Like these are wealthy people, rich beyond any measure. And instead of eating delicacies, instead of eating some of the things that very few people could have ate at the time, they decide to practice cannibalism. And by the way, like, these were either Jewish or Christian people, right? Like, religious speaking. Why would they, does it make any sense? See, like, the reason we don't practice cannibalism isn't because, like, human beings taste exceptionally well. But unfortunately, we have a taboo. No, like, there's actual, first of all, sanitary reasons. Even if you, like, overlook the moral implications. And after that, it's also the fact that human meat actually tastes disgusting. How do we know? We have history books of the people that actually did went through hungers and people that were shipwrecked. If human meat was actually delicious, then after the famine passes, like, more people would still remain cannibals, right? Because, well, human meat is delicious. But no, that's not what happens, historically speaking. And then it's the idea of a lynching. Like, they would eat people after a lynching. Like, from my knowledge, right, and based on human nature and stuff, the people that rile themselves up into a frenzy in order to commit a lynching is usually because they believe that the victim has done some great societal harm. Like, they wouldn't go around and just, like, target individual people. They would convince themselves, first and foremost, that the person deserves it, right? Whether the person did deserve it or not, we don't know, because, like, that person wouldn't be accused of a trial, and that's the problem with lynching. But the people themselves, the one that actually partake in the horrible act, they have gaslit themselves, again, rightfully so, or maybe wrongfully so, that the person is usually a rapist or a murderer or something, right? So even from that perspective, it's like, okay, they killed what they believe to be a rapist. Why would they eat him afterwards? Like, that doesn't make any type of sense. Like, see, this is the thing. Like, this ideology of progressive brain rot just doesn't go against any type of scrutiny. And this is why it requires censorship in order to function. This is why they constantly claim it's racist to talk against them. Because the moment you even shake it a little bit, with just like, all right, well, maybe you're correct, maybe it happened, let's look at the evidence, right? How likely is it? Now, are there any books that may have spoken about the case of some slave owner that ate black people? Probably, right? I mean, in hundreds of years, many things can happen. But was it systemic? Absolutely not. And even if there were books and people writing shit, there are people that write and post shit today. That's not true. Why wouldn't it be different for people in the past that wrote and posted shit? So unless if you can come up with, like, archaeological evidence, unless you can come up with a plethora of books that talk about the subject. Like, for instance, the abuse and beatings of slaves, like, that is actually documented. And there is historical evidence and archaeological evidence for that, right? Now, if you also added cannibalism on top of it, but don't you think, like, the progressive movement would talk about it nonstop and constantly? Right, so, like, they talk about the abuses that slaves had with lashings and lynchings and stuff like that. That is documented. Like, people do talk about that. But for some reason, when it comes to the cannibalism, they go like, no, I mean, this is a little bit too much. No, I think, like, they would have started with that if that was the thing, right? Like, that would have been front and center. So no, it's kind of interesting because like the reality is like white people eating black people, no, absolutely not. And I gave all the reasons as to why it wouldn't happen. Black people eating other black people or black people eating white people, yes, that did happen. There is recently a CNN interview, right, that came up a couple of years ago, showing literally how it's happening today. And the explanation for it is several. Like, first of all, religious reasons. Especially like in places like Haiti, they believe that if you consume the souls of your enemy or something like that. Was it like one of the presidents in Haiti, like Papa Doc, that was practicing cannibalism? Like, I would have to check. I know that when communism was a thing in my country, the dear leader Ceausescu was actually accused for selling off a Romanian Secret Service woman to a cannibal king in Africa. And the reason he did that is because he wanted to do some business with the diamonds, and when the cannibal king visited Romania, he actually fell in love with this lady. And so Ceausescu said, well, for socialism in your country, you have to actually go with him. She could have said no, but she didn't. So yeah, like she went with him. No, he did not eat her. But the fact that it's mentioned he's a cannibal king, like that goes to prove that not 100 years ago, but like 50 years ago, there were cannibal kings in Africa. You know, it's interesting. But you go on TikTok and you're presented with this alternative. And the thing is, like, if you bring it up, if I was to start a channel, like constantly dabbing on the acts of cannibalism from Africa, people would call me racist, right? Like immediately my channel would be under scrutiny. But when you have a different channel where they're like, well, actually, white people were cannibals, oh, that's progressive. That's just enlightened thinking. And this is what ticks me off. It's not the argument. I don't give a shit about, you know, whether or not white people performed cannibalism. Like, as long as I don't perform it and people around me don't perform it, I'm fine. But if I'm just jealous. Like, I want to have a channel like that where I just pull bullshit out of my ass that's sensationalist and rage baiting, and I just make money off of that. And I call myself like a black history professor. I want to call myself a white history professor, right? Ridiculous. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.